right. Thank you all for joining this call. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to everyone from wherever you're joining us from. My name is Florence Mukuye, Chief Operating Officer at Magezi Harvest Group, and I'm delighted to be sharing this topic with you today. Co-hosting with me is Mr. Igesa, and I'll invite him to introduce himself in 1 minute, and then we'll start.
Welcome everybody to our webinar series, weekly webinar series that we will be carrying out as effective today. My name is Igesa Leonard. I usually add the rider that my names are not commutative. So we are going to be talking about how to build high-performing teams. I work as the Chief Executive Officer at the Magezi Harvest Group, and I'm happy to share with you this morning. So over to you, Florence. We begin.
All right, thank you, Mr. Igesa. So today we are discussing how to build high-performing teams. And before we get there, I would like to pose a question to each and everyone on the call. Have you ever been a part of a team where everyone is very busy, but there is very little that is getting done? You can think about the moment that you had such an arrangement. And over the years, I've had a chance to organize quite a number of events. And this could be corporate events, weddings, concerts, a number of events. And I'll give you, I'll paint a picture for you of what being in a team that is very busy but not productive would look like. I've organized traditional ceremonies, and if you've been in a place or a home which is hosting a traditional ceremony the following day, you would attest. Normally, for the men, you might not know this because you're normally on the receiving end, and you come when everything is rosy and everything is set. But for the people who are normally in the house a day before, especially in the African context, I'll narrow it down to Uganda. We are very communal, and most of the times when we are hosting such events, people will come through from all walks of life with one agenda to help. So when you're around at home a day before, there is so much work going on, and when you look around, everyone is quite busy. You might not even understand what they are doing. It would even make you dizzy just looking at how everyone is running around. But if you went down and asked, is this done? Is this ready? Is this ready? Do we have these rooms clean? Most of those things, you will find out that they are not done. And unfortunately for us, most of our companies are working like these traditional ceremony homes that host all the team members, all the family members, and gather together in one agenda, of course, which is helping out and making sure the function is a success. And then you go around doing so many things, but without actually accomplishing anything. So that takes me to my next slide, which says, great teams do not happen by chance. They are built through clarity. This is our topic today. And from my example, you will understand that those teams, those people that come over to us, to our homes to help us organize, are actually great teams. But why aren't they delivering? We'll see. It's probably because there is lack of clarity. So what is a team? A team is a group of 2 or more people combining distinctive strengths and responsibilities to achieve a shared result. Now, in my definition, I would want you to understand 2 things. One, it's a group of 2 or more people. So if you're 2 people, even if it's a company of just 2 people, you are still a team. And there is shared result. So you must have one shared result. So for you to be able to work together as a team, you must have a shared result. Okay? So Look at this picture. If you can see my screen, there is this little machine, and it says, a team is a machine where even the smallest parts play a vital role. Performance depends on every part working and connecting properly. I'll invite my co-host to also share more about this.
Yeah, I always want to use relatable examples. So if you look at a machine, there are certain parts that look small, but then if they are not performing to expectation, then they affect the outcome of the team. Take, for instance, if you are driving a car, you find there is that belt which helps the alternator in charging the car's battery. So if that belt stops, it breaks, it snaps while you're in the middle of your journey, you're definitely going to have to experience a setback, and you will not be able to proceed with the journey as expected. And yet, what you would consider the major components of the car, for example, the engine, the gearbox, the transmission, are all working properly. So while some parts are normally seen to be more important than others, the performance of the team will be affected. As we go on to discuss this topic about clarity, it should always be very clear to every team member that they can affect the performance of the team. It's like when you're seated in a boat, the captain is being assisted by other people to row the boat and steer it forward, but there is a guy at the back who is drilling a hole in the boat. That boat is going to capsize because the contribution of that team member is a negative contribution. So just like a machine, if you look at this image that we have on the screen, if one of those gears is not working properly, that machine is not going to perform as expected. So this is how we should look at a team. Every team member should be made to understand that their contribution is vital, and it will contribute to the team's outcome, rather than ending up with a scenario, which I'll talk about later, where you have 20% of the team members, who we call the stars, producing 80% of the result. That is not ideal. It is something that we want to help, our clients. It's something that we want to help our friends to avoid coming up with the teams where the stars carry a lot of dead weight from other members. When we were in engineering school, at times we used to call these people in groups or in teams. We used to call them zero force members or redundant members. They're just in there not contributing. It weighs on other people. Other people get overworked. So that is why it's not desirable. So we look at a team as a machine whose parts are all important, and they must play their role as we move forward.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gibson. So you might want to ask me, why did I start with a team? And we are discussing how to build high-performing teams. And normally, it's very easy to solve a problem if you know its cause. So that's why it's important for us to first of all understand what a team is, which we just did. So let's go ahead and understand what high performance means. High performance in our everyday life would look like everyone understanding the shared outcome, roles and decisions, right, are explicit, communication channels are purpose, people trust one another enough to speak up, commitments have owners and deadlines, the team learns and improves continuously. So this is what a high performance would look like in our everyday life. So let's look at the pillars that make the high performing teams. Now that we know what a team is, and then we know what high performing means, we can now understand what high performing teams are. We have identified 5 pillars, and those are clarity, trust, accountability, communication, continuous improvement. If you're able to build this in your teams, surely you try to do the most with high performance. Okay, what is clarity? What would clarity mean to you even in a layman's language? It means you know, you're aware, you have an idea, you have clarity, you have clear goals, you have clear roles, you have clear destinations, you have clear standards, you have clear priorities. That is what clarity is. So ask yourself in your teens, do you have this clarity? Do you know where you're headed? Do you know your specific roles? Do you know your priorities? Do you know your standards? If you know those things, then you're right on track. But if you don't, you probably need to go back and revise and understand what exactly you need right from the ground. So clarity will be divided into two. One is for the leader. The leader should actually provide clarity so that the team can buy off, the team members can buy off this clarity and carry it on in their performance. As you look at this slide right now, you'll understand that people cannot consistently deliver what the leadership has not made clear. So if that your leader does not define what they want, the outcome, the name of who is the owner of a specific task, or they do not set the standards, you will not have the clarity that you need to carry on your role. As we go on, I'll invite my co-host to also say more about this one.
Just take us back to the previous slide a bit. Okay, so the clarity from a leader means the leader is an effective communicator. The leader should never leave ambiguity in their communication. You want team members to understand where you are going, what you want their contribution in that journey to be, and when you want that contribution to happen, and what will be the expected outcome. So you set the standard. So you tell a person, I want you to do 1, 2, 3, 4 things, do them in this period of time. I am expecting a standard commensurate with the one that we have done here before, or the one that we have practiced a day before, or I want the standard that is expected of a person in this company if the company has already laid out guidelines on standards. Then you affirm by as you probe and see if they have understood. That is why good leaders always ask, you get what I have asked you to do, I want you to do, then you allow the person to play back the roles, the tasks that you've asked them to do, so that you assure that they have absolute clarity. Yeah, so you don't want communication to be lost at that very point, such that the person ends up executing a totally different thing from what you have communicated. Now, good leaders in the corporate setting go a step further. They put it in writing and copy in all the other stakeholders. Let's say in an email thread, they clearly state, dear so-and-so, or hello so-and-so, hi so-and-so, I am asking you, or I'm requesting you to do 1, 2, 3, 4, get help from so-and-so, that is still clarity, deliver this by close of business tomorrow, or by close of business today, as we have agreed. And then the last bit, which we normally leave out, is a call to action. What exactly should they do after they have done the task? Then report back to all of us or to me when you have executed the task. So you defined the outcome, you made the owner understand that they are the one in charge. You don't leave ambiguity in your communication. You have already communicated the standard expected, and then you have confirmed they have an understanding, and then you have also gone ahead to put it on record. So that is what clear leaders do in their communication when they are assigning tasks. As we saw at the start of this webinar, communication is one of the 5 key pillars when you are building a high-performing team. So I would like to beseech you to always be very clear in your communication, even when you are just writing. It should always be very clear what you want to get out of that activity that you are assigning to a member. Even when you are writing to your superior and you are a member of the team, you should always be very clear what you want them to do for you. What exactly do you need help about? So that is clarity. Let's go to the next slide. I have coined a phrase that teams are always built in the character of their leader. I always say organizations take the character of their CEO. Because if a leader emphasizes things like clear communication, teams will normally take up the same trait. They will learn that this is how we do it in this company. They will, for example, say, this is the Magezi way. You must write clear emails. This is not acceptable. This is acceptable. So they know the do's and don'ts. They know that their leader is this and that. So if a leader speaks with energy, a team will normally, even the members of the team that were not naturally in that disposition will find themselves changing over time. So as leaders, we must always put our best foot forward and make sure that we adopt a character in which we would be proud to have our teams shaped. That is what I wanted to say about that. And next slide. So clarity in leadership always boils down to knowing when to say yes and when to say no. Now, some leaders want to be people pleasers. They want to be ice cream sellers who don't annoy anybody. So they run away from taking hard decisions. They begin deflecting, saying, you ask the other one. The moment you say, ask the other one, and yet you are the go-to person. You are the leader. The person, the people, the team are looking up to you, but then you are deflecting and you're saying, ask the other one. Then you are ceding leadership. The person you are telling them to ask, if they are already not in a position of leadership and they are maybe at your level or below you, they will eventually take your leadership position because they are not shying away from knowing when to say no and when to say yes. So a leader must know when to say no and when to say yes. Now, very good leaders have a perfect blend or a near perfect blend of humanity and grace, which they combine with a no-nonsense attitude. Just because you're a nice guy, it doesn't mean that people will run over you. I always tell my team members in every setting that however nice I am, don't forget that I still hold the keys to firing if I find that a person is now a liability to the team or the person is infusing negative energy in the team. While we explain this to the team members and say, don't be the team member that infuses negative energy, it is important that as a leader, you know, a time is going to come when you are going to have to take the hard decision, what we call biting the bullet. It does not mean you have become a bad leader then. No. Probably you are taking that decision because you believe that taking that decision is for the good of the team by taking out negative energy so that the team can flow seamlessly. Proceed.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gesa. So we saw that we had 5 pillars. And having understood what clarity is, we'll proceed to the next one, which is trust. For you to build a high-performing team, you need to trust your team members. If you find out that you cannot trust your team members, then you need to check who your team members are. Looking at this slide, we'll understand what trust is. Trust might be ask before assuming. Someone could come from a team and tell you something, and then without finding any proof, any light, you go ahead and make a decision. But with trust, you'll call that person, inquire from them, know which point of view they are coming from, and then they will probably help you. It doesn't mean that if you're the highest person in that group, in that team, you are the only person who knows everything. Trusting your team members will help you to also learn from them, to also pick ideas from them, which ideas could actually be very beneficial and increase your productivity as a company. So ask before assuming, admit mistakes early before they can escalate into a dangerous situation. Share unfinished ideas. Find out why are they getting ready? Why aren't we finishing them? Is there any problem? Is there anything we can do to finish them? Continue to find out, ask, and you'll always have the answers somewhere. Someone should always give you the answers if the team has trust amongst it. Challenge ideas, not people. When you're seated on your teams, in your groups, do not find fault in someone who is on your group. Instead, discuss the ideas. Discuss what is not working, discuss what should work best for your team instead of discussing the humans, because we need, as we understood in the definition of the word team, we all bring different energies, different knowledge, different skills, but all in one to achieve just one goal. So if you fight the people, you are probably fighting someone who would add something to that group, to that team. And because you do not trust them for personal reasons, which is so unprofessional, you could end up losing something that could be very productive to your team. Always give and receive candid feedback. Feedback should be very positive, and also the negative one should be given, but respectfully. Always give the feedback. If there is something that is ongoing in your group that you do not understand, please give the feedback. Just find means of giving that feedback in a very, very respectful manner. And also the people that are receiving the feedback, please always have the courtesy to understand that it's feedback and just go over it, understand how you can help each other to grow from where you are and to keep going forward. Later, we shall understand that high performance is not a one-day thing. It's not something that you're going to wake up today and say, we've finally achieved high performance. No, it's a continuous thing, like we saw in the definition of high performance. It's a continuous thing. It's something that you keep doing over and over time. So giving and receiving feedback helps us to build over and over. Then finally, keep promises consistently. If you promise, for example, you've promised clients, please follow up. Do as much follow-up as you can. If you've promised your team members that you give them an approval, that you will look into their work, that you will do something, for you to also meet the deadlines, give the feedback like you've promised, give the promises that you have promised. And if there is something that is hindering, we'll still go back to communication. So you will realize that the 5 pillars actually work together. So if you master the 5 pillars, yes, you'll be good to go. I'll move on to the next slide. And this is our 3rd pillar. Our 3rd pillar is accountability. So now what is accountability? Accountability is ownership made visible. I'll give you a story. Growing up, the family, who has a queen of this house, always called out for help. You know how parents will call you and ask you even for the nearest thing around them. So every time she had something she wanted, she would always call. But because we were many, she would not call names. She would always stand somewhere and say, "Who is there?" So now for us also being young, no one wanted to be there. So even if you were the closest person around, you would all tiptoe and go furthest. So the best thing you could probably do for her is find someone who didn't even hear her calling, who is there, and tell them, the queen is calling you. Instead of you going to, because you had her first, instead of you going to attend to that call, you would actually run away. So don't be like the queen. Accountability. you'll read down here, we wrote, if everyone is responsible, then no one is responsible. So if you decide to give tasks, let there be clarity. Again, we come back. So instead of being like the queen and saying who is there, and saying who can sign this report, who can make this report, who can someone come, can someone deliver this? No one will come. Know your team, give the tasks, give accountability to everyone. If you ask someone that I see Stephen, I'll use Stephen. If you say, Stephen, please handle this, you will know exactly where to go if that is not handled, as compared to you being like the queen and saying who is there, and then no one is showing up, or anyone who wants whoever passed by could show up, and then they do not deliver what you want. But in your team, you have a Stephen who would have done that work more efficiently, probably. But because you did not account, you did not give accountability to your team, you're getting less effective results. So with accountability, please know what must be delivered, who owns it, by when, what does done when progress be reviewed. Ask yourself these questions before you even give out a task. When you, as a leader or a team member, you understand what the task is about, it's very easy for you to give accountability. It's very easy for you to then probably delegate, to probably deliver this task. You will then know, what do I need to deliver? What exactly is in the package for me? What did I order for? What do I have? Then if you know who owns it, like I said, it means you will understand who to ask, who, if it doesn't go well, who to go to, and yes, if it does not beat the deadline, by when, then you will also know where to run to. We go to the next, which is communication. We've been over and over this. As even from clarity and from the beginning of the whole presentation, these things are together, they are moving together. Clarity, we've seen trust, we've seen accountability. And as we are looking at communication right now, we should know that we've actually talked about it and that it sits in all the three that we've had before. Communication, agree that in its communication system, you must agree to which communication channels that you use in your company, in your organization. Communication is only complete when meaning is shared. That is for you to. The meaning is not shared if people do not understand, if people do not understand your goals, if people do not understand your vision, then you're probably talking to a tree or talking to yourself. So you need to make sure people understand. As you give out your communication, be clear, be concise, be concrete, be complete. Let it be complete. You should know what communication exactly means, and make sure that as you give it out, people are actually perceiving it exactly how you imagined it in your brain. You draw that picture and make sure that people are looking at it and working with you exactly the same way that you drew that picture. Okay, and the last one was continuous improvement. Like I said earlier, we understood that high-performing teams, high performance is actually not a goal that we will touch and say, wow, this is finished, we finally accomplished, we finally made it, unless you're planning to close. But if you're not planning to close, high performance is something that you have to keep doing over and over again. So there must be improvement every day. I normally tell people that we spend most of our days at work. When you wake up in the morning, you're preparing to go to work. Then you go to work, and then when you go back home in the evening, you're preparing to go to work the following day. We are even out sometimes, and people are saying, oh, guys, I need to leave because tomorrow is work. So you spend most of your time of life at work. So make it work, improve yourself, learn new things every day. There is a lot to learn, by the way. Make sure your team is learning something new every day. Be a good leader. Do not get keep Make sure that the team that you have is learning something from you every day. If they come to you, don't say, no, me, this one, I did it myself, so you also should try and find it out on your own. No, leave it out. You actually get experience also. So let your teams ask, what worked and why? What failed and why? What must we change? What should we continue? Who owns the improvement? Reflection, you need to reflect, go back over and over again, and make sure that there is continuous improvement. I'll invite my co-host to question.
All right. I have a classification of teams, and one of those is a team where you find yourself in a position of leadership, but you do not have power in assembling that team or the power to assemble that team. Now, these are common. Take, for example, most of these professional societies, let's say the Uganda Institution of Professional Engineers, the Uganda Law Society, you know, the people who designed those things did not really look at the effectiveness of a team. They were really looking at being nice guys. So they come up with constitutions that, in quotes, promote democracy. So they put political correctness above team efficiency. Now, if you find yourself in such situations where it could even be an old boys club, old girls club, or old students club, or association, whatever it is, you find you are in a team, or even at your workplace, you are not the hiring manager, you are not having a serious input in hiring. So you find that you are leading a team which you do not participate in assembling. So that means you will end up with a myriad of characters, of individuals that you know might give you headache. You might find individuals that fall in the 4 quadrants that I'm going to talk about when talking about the capability, what we call capability commitment metrics, or what other people call the skill will metrics, whereby we look at the skill, we place skill or capability on the vertical axis, and then commitment or will on the horizontal axis. And then we start classifying these team members. So it's very important. If you find yourself, you're in a situation where you don't influence necessarily, you are not by law, you are not the one forming this team, then try to find ways of influencing. You could actually get people who have expressed interest in running on these positions, for instance. Then you get them to buy into your vision, such that even before you go for an election, these people have already bought into your vision. They just want to be behind you. They want to run through a wall for you, even when they are also going to go and seek the same mandate that you are seeking from the same electorate. So it's important that you try to influence people. One of the books that I keep encouraging my team members to read is the 1937 classic by Dale Carnegie called titled "How to Win Friends and Influence People." So when you read that book, you realize that you can actually influence people and make them want to run through a wall for you, and give you, very good performance. So when we look at the capability commitment metrics, you have 4 quadrants that we classify team members into: the flight risks, the misfits, the builders, and the stars. Now, the misfits, those are people who have low skill level. They are operating at a low skill level, low capability, and low commitment. So they have the bad side of both worlds. So those guys, you don't waste a lot of time on them. You give them 1, 2, 3 chances. You see no commitment to improve, no improvement in skills. Discard those team members. If you keep them around, you're keeping dead weight, and that dead weight is going to weigh heavily on you. So it's not good to keep misfits in the team. So the team leaders need to know that the moment you identify a misfit and you have made every attempt to try and help them improve, they are not improving, then discard them. Then we have the builders. who have high commitment but low capability. Those are people who will benefit from a personal improvement plan. So if you try to improve those people, they are likely to improve on capability, and they can easily move into the category of the stars. So these are people that, you know, can actually make an average team, which started as an average team, to become, you know, a star, a high-performing team. There's an example I always give of football teams. I was saying that PSG, at the time when it had, you know, stars like Lionel Messi, Neymar, Kylian Mbappe, and others, these were all world beaters. But it was just a team of individual stars. They were not working as a machine. So when there was a change of management at that football club, these guys started now analyzing. I happened to attend the Web Summit in Qatar 2025, where the PSG guys explained how they use data when they're doing recruitment. And I was surprised that these guys also look at data of these people's character. The yellow cards, blah, 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 blah. So, and they assemble all these, and it informs their decisions on which team member fits the team characteristics desired by the manager. So they ended up with guys who could have high commitment, willing to improve and improve their capability. So they ended up conquering Europe, and also went to the finals of the World Club Championships. So it's now a team of high-performing stars. The flight risks are guys who have very good skills. You know, go back. I'm explaining these things, so I'll just sift through. So the flight risks have very good skills, but low commitment. Those ones are always in the waiting lounge. They're just waiting to move to the next opportunity. So they are using your office to have access to resources like internet and networks as they are looking for their next job. You identify those people, you try to talk to them to see if they can improve their attitude and improve their commitment. If you don't see that happening, treat them the same way you've treated the misfits. If they improve their attitude and commitment, their journey into the star category is always seamless, and your team will be high-performing. So at the end of the day, as a person who is trying to build a high-performing team, you're really looking at a team of stars. You can turn guys who are average in one aspect, but high on the other, into high-performing stars, and your team will be a high-performing team. So we can move to the next slide. And so I have been explaining these things, so I will not really take time on this. For example, the builders, the flight risks, misfits, I've already explained what we need to do to them. So we can move now to grace versus ruthlessness. Grace is where humanity is used as a performance tool. Trust comes before suspicion. So you can coach people before you condemn them. You can protect their dignity and these kind of things. But ruthlessness is required where you must give action, especially, for example, you want to remove a misfit. You have to be very clear that as a leader, this is the action I think we are going to take. Then when it comes to enforcing standards, you have to have a level of ruthlessness. I will give an example. I have been a lifelong fan of Liverpool Football Club. And one of the greatest managers of that club, Jurgen Klopp, he took that club to the brink of winning the European Champions League in 2018, where they played Real Madrid. So their team was playing well, but they had one weak point, the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper made a schoolboy error and conceded a goal that disorganized him, and then started chipping in 2 other goals, and the match ended 3-1. So what the manager did was to identify that this is a misfit. We have to replace him immediately. It was a ruthless decision, even though the character of Jurgen Klopp that people see is that of the guy who is always giving his players big hugs, and he doesn't, you know, he doesn't show the aggressive side of his in public. But he went down, told his board that I want a new star, a high performer to come to the team so that we can close that gap. And just that one decision, the results changed. Their defensive record improved, and of course a couple of other decisions here and there. So the next year they actually won the Champions League. That is what ruthlessness looks like. You have to be very ruthless when taking decisions that will result in a team performing at the highest level. We proceed. So high performance is everyone's work, but leadership sets the conditions that will give us the right conditions that will allow people to perform at their highest, or to perform to the best of their abilities. Proceed.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Egesa. So just like we've had, high performance in a team is everyone's role. The leaders though have the foundation, and the team members build the performance. So what do the leaders have to do? I'm sure if you go back, if you've been attentive, you could know by now. Even when you're hiring as a leader, know exactly why you're hiring. Don't just wake up in the morning and say, I have a free table here. Maybe I have the resources for that. First have clarity. We'll still go back to the pillars. That's where we are going to center the pillars. Go back. Why do I need this employee? Which role? What are we missing? Understand the roles. Understand the value that person is going to bring to your team before you even hire. So your work goes a long way. It goes as far back as even hiring an employee to join your team. So the leaders set the foundation. You set direction, define the roles and standards. May they be clear to you even before, otherwise if they're not clear to you, they can never be clear to your team members. Resource the work, model trust and candor, remove barriers. If the team comes to you and they need resources, they talk about it, do not just be harsh, fit in and understand where they're coming from, understand what they need. You probably might be the barrier to why they are not performing well. Listen to them and understand. And we said we are taking feedback positively and we are giving it respectfully. So yeah, review performance fairly, develop people deliberately. So as a leader, you are the foundation in building high performing teams. But then the team members, you are the ones doing the real work. Your own commitments, accountability, we talked about that. Collaborate with other people. You are not a one-man team, unless you are, but we saw that a team is two or more. So if you're one person, you're not a team. So meaning if you have other people, you need to adopt, you need to adjust to work with everyone on that team. So collaborate as much as you can. Communicate, we already talked about this. Ask for clarity where you need it. Support your other colleagues. You might be the one who knows more about the projects than they do. Please support them so that you all work together. At the end of the day, it's everyone's win. A win for one is a win for all, and a loss for one is also a loss for the entire company. So yes, let's work together, support your other colleagues. We've seen feedback, learn continuously. We talked about that. And yes, also be willing to upgrade your standards. So if you are building a high performing team, or if you've listened in and yes, you now want to build a high performing team, ask yourself these questions as you start. What is the one outcome that matters most? Who owns each critical result? Can people challenge ideas safely? How do we see progress and risk? What will improve this week? Ask yourself those questions, table them, understand them, ask questions. We also discussed that a number of times. We brought it over and over again. And yes, as we are concluding, I would like to remind you not to be like the queen I talked about. Always have accountability. Remember the 5 pillars, that is clarity, that is trust, accountability, communication, and continuous improvement. I'll invite Mr. Egesa, my co-host, to also give a conclusion on this topic.
Thank you. So we are talking about building high-performing teams. from our presentation, we have given you the 5 pillars of a high-performing team. We have also gone and explored the capability versus commitment metrics. And we have demonstrated that you want to have people that fall in the category that we call the stars, the guys that have high commitment and high capability. Their will is so high, and their skills have been, well developed, so you will get consistently high results. That is the team that we are all aspiring for. So it takes a great deal of sacrifice, and I will again repeat the word commitment, also from the leaders, to get it to work. So what you are doing when you're building a team, you are facilitating other people to also shine. So the mantra that shine and let others shine must be at the back of your mind. So you are actually building a system that allows people to shine. So high performance is supposed to be a continuous thing. It is not a one-time event. It is a leadership practice. The people themselves have to have leadership in themselves. When I start working with teams, on the very first day, at least for the last 10 years, I always borrow the 19 lessons from the military as summarized by Patrick Bet-David, the one famed for valuetainment. I take people through these 19 lessons from the military that can make you perform effectively and be very productive. And if every member in the team understands those 19 lessons, then the team becomes very effective. So clarity, connection, commitment, and continuous improvement are things that you need to have a seamless machine. So we thank you for being here. We are now going into another segment, a 5-minute segment, where we are going to tell you about one of the products that we have in the Magezi Harvest group. And then we will open up the discussion for feedback, questions, so that we can answer. So we'll have questions from 10:51 to 10:56, and then we'll use the last 4 minutes to answer. So I want to invite our Senior Manager Operations, Christopher Rangala, to take over the next segment.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to my colleagues for a warm and wonderful presentation. It has been insightful. We have learned a lot. Now, I'd want to start by pointing out an obvious thing. Can we move to the slide? Every advocate entered the profession to practice law. I know, very obvious. But somewhere along the way, practicing law became only part of the job. Today, an advocate isn't just expected to advise clients or appear in court. They're also expected to draft documents, stay current with legal developments, manage client relationships, organize case files, track deadlines, issue invoices, follow up on payments, and somehow still find time to grow their practice. The modern legal profession has become increasingly complex, not because the law has changed, but because the demands placed on lawyers have. And why is this so? The challenge isn't a lack of legal expertise. The challenge is fragmentation. Legal knowledge lives in one place. Templates are saved somewhere else. Client information is in another system. Billing is handled separately. Client notes sit in different folders, deadlines on calendars, research scattered across different sources. And none of these tools speak to each other. And every time you switch between them, you lose time, context, and momentum. Over the course of a year, roughly, those small inefficiencies become significant cost to your practice. Now, what's interesting is that as we engaged with advocates, we noticed something we hadn't expected. People weren't asking us about billing first. They weren't asking about client management. They were asking for knowledge, contract templates, legal precedents, practical guides, resources they could immediately use in practice. That told us something important. Lawyers don't wake up thinking, I need another software platform. They wake up thinking, I need to draft this agreement. I need guidance on this matter. I need to prepare for this client meeting. And knowledge is where every basis of legal work begins. That realization shaped Magezi Lawyer. We didn't build just another case management system. We built a platform around how legal professionals actually work. Imagine opening one platform where you can access professionally prepared legal resources, templates, manage your matters, organize your clients, collaborate with colleagues, track deadlines, and bill your clients without moving between multiple applications. Instead of spending valuable time searching for documents or recreating work that's already been done, everything you need is available in one connected workspace. We believe technology shouldn't replace legal expertise. It should remove the operational friction that gets in the way of it. That's why we describe Magezi Lawyer as the platform where knowledge and legal practice come together. Basically everything a lawyer needs. So whether you're an independent advocate, a growing law firm, or an established practice looking to modernize the way you work, Magezi Lawyer was built with you in mind. We invite you to explore the platform for yourself, browse the legal resources, use document templates, and experience how practice management can feel when everything works together. If you'd like to see it in action, we'd be delighted to give you a walkthrough or help you get started with a free trial. You can sign up at lawyer.ug, and that's lawyer with a double O. Because at the end of the day, your time should be spent practicing law, not managing the complexity around it. Remember, every legal matter begins with knowledge. Every successful practice depends on execution. Magezi Lawyer brings both together in one platform. I would like to thank you so much for the time that I've been given, and I would relinquish my time at this point and hand it back over to my colleagues. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chris. Thank you for that information. We are now welcoming questions and any feedback in relation to the topic that we've just shared. I see we have some in the chat already. Thank you, Mr. Kasango. Thank you, Kenneth. If there is anyone who wants to unmute and ask the question, please be my... Yes, Kenneth.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Kenneth? Kenneth, can you hear me? Okay. We will read what you typed in the chat. Is there anyone else? The platform is open. We have a minute. We can take up the questions, and I'll invite my co-host to answer the questions that have been typed in the chat.
Okay, so I'll get straight into this. Engineer Banuli Kasango asks a question that can great individuals alone create a high-performing team?
Whether
why or why not? Kenneth, you were not being heard. Okay, let me give you a minute to first of all ask, and then I'll answer. Go ahead. able to get Kenneth's sound, so we will proceed. Mute him. We will proceed, but at least we got your question in the chat box. So grading videos alone do not create a high-performing team. I'll ask Florence to move back the slides to the capability commitment metrics right there. So if you were to draw a line, starting from the origin, where the two axes meet, where you see those words low, low, and you take that line diagonally through, cutting through misfits, going up through to the stars, you will see that if that line is going to be representing performance, you will see that that line will show you that as commitment and capability both increase, performance will increase. So you'll be getting higher performance. So it is not true that great individuals alone can create a high-performing team. Yeah, it's because the attitude will break down even the other members that have been putting their everything on the line, putting in very good effort, and yet they have the skills. So you'll end up with a situation where at one point Google was claiming 20% of their employees were delivering 80% of the results for the company. So you don't want to just have an arrangement where you have a collection of stars, a collection of great individuals that do not have the right attitude, the right commitment, will not produce the outcome. When I was a bit younger, I got to learn about something that the Japanese follow, which is 75% attitude, 25% knowledge and skill. So even if you have knowledge and skill, your success is going to rely mostly on your attitude, because your attitude will help you to be a good performer in the other pillars that we talked about. It will mean that you communicate to everybody, you have a very positive attitude, so you reach out to people, you're always seeking to improve yourself, you can communicate with clarity and all these kind of things. So attitude is very key for every member in the team if you're going to end up with a high-performing team. The moment you see people with poor attitude, their commitment is going to be very low. And if you give them opportunities to improve, and they don't improve, like I said, cut them off. Next question, Kenneth Tracy J, CEO at TechBuzz Hub, asks a question. You emphasize how the leaders or CEO's behavior is a clear reflection of the people he leads. How can he separate this professional persona from the personal life? For example, imagine a CEO who posts only funny memes, yet he leads a team that needs to behave super professional at the balance happen. Yeah, I think it also depends on doing the right thing in the right place. Where are they posting these things? If during the workday, this is the message they are putting out there. Yeah, now it is leading us to what I said. One of the mantras that I carry, that I keep repeating in my practice of consulting work. I keep saying that teams take the character of their leader. Organizations take the character of the CEO. So if you are using what would be productive time to post these memes and what have you, you are sending a subtle message to the team members that you can actually do this during work hours. So you have failed to segregate professional work hours that require seriousness and commitment, and to separate them from time for leisure and any other business. So you will end up with a team that does not know how to strike a proper work-life balance. There is another question that I'm seeing here from Michelle Mugenyi. You say, thank you very much for the session. It was extremely informative. What steps can organizations take to build commitment amongst their team members? The first answer I'm going to give you is, make it a habit to encourage your team members to read that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. They need to understand how to deliver criticism. They need to understand how, so every team member needs to understand how this is done. And you can go over it. So if team members understand exactly that the leaders put a lot of emphasis on team cohesion. They put a lot of emphasis on clarity in communication, in upholding standards and all that. Then you can see some of the members who arrive in the company with low commitment will start improving. But then there are those ones that will not change. So you may not completely run away from cutting them out when you are boxed into a situation where that is the only thing that you're left with. How best can teams combine talent, leadership, and culture? Yeah, some of the things we've been talking about. Yes, you could have missed a few things here and there. Sometimes there are network intermittencies here and there. So what we are going to do going forward, I see our time is up. This is a 1-hour session. So what we are going to do going forward, we are going to send you a recording of this webinar on your emails. So just make sure you went to the registration form. We captured your email. So we will share a recording of this webinar by next week before we have our next webinar next week. Maybe Florence, or you can tell us what we are covering next week. So this is a weekly webinar series where we help people to run better organizations, to run better teams. Thank you very much for attending. Magezi Harvest Group is here always at your service.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us again. Since our time is out, I'll just let you know what topic we are discussing next Friday, still 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. And that is how to overcome organizational drag. We'll be hosting that next Friday, 10 a.m. Please look out for the link. It will be shared to the emails, or you'll be added and invited to the call. Thank you very much for attending. Have a good day. It's been a pleasure.